The auditorium was packed, hundreds of families standing, cheering, camera phones, raised banners waving, and in the middle of it all, a man stood silently at the back. Tall, stiff posture, wearing an old Marine dress jacket over faded jeans. When he stepped forward to take a seat near the front, a woman in a headset blocked him. "Sir, this section is for guests of honor only." He tried to explain my son's graduating. "I'm on his list." She shook her head. "I don't care who you are. Step back now, or security will remove you." 2 guards approached. The crowd barely noticed, but 1 row, 5th from the front, watched everything. They didn't say a word. Not yet. His name was Daniel R. Beck, retired Master Sergeant U.S. Marine Corps, 22 years of service, 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. He'd lost a third of his hearing from an IED blast, picked shrapnel out of his side for 6 months, and buried more brothers than he cared to count. But nothing had prepared him for this day. Not war, not combat, not even retirement, because today his only son, Tyler Beck, was graduating, not from basic, not from boot camp, from college, the first in their family to do so. Daniel hadn't cried in decades, but when the invitation came in the mail, handwritten by Tyler with the words, "Dad, I want you in the front row," his throat locked up. He kept the card folded in his jacket pocket. Ever since Tyler had worked 2 jobs through school, he never asked for help, but he called every Sunday, and every Sunday Daniel answered with the same steady voice, "Proud of you, son." Daniel had made the trip from 3 states away, slept in his truck the night before in the college parking lot, didn't ask for a hotel, didn't want to make a scene. He wore his old uniform jacket not to show off, but because it was the nicest thing he owned. He brought nothing but his truck, the invitation, and the hope that he'd see his son cross the stage. The auditorium was larger than he'd expected. Hundreds of guests, parents in suits and ties, mothers in dresses, rows of neatly labeled chairs, and red ropes separating reserved seating. From the rest, Daniel stood near the side wall scanning the crowd. His name was supposed to be on the list. Tyler had told him, "You'll be up front right next to my name." But when he approached the entrance to the reserve section, the usher barely looked at him, 1 glance at his clothes, 1 at the creases in his face. That was enough. She waved him off with a rehearsed tone. "Sorry, sir, this area is for family." "I am family," he replied calmly. "I'm his father." No ID, no pass step aside. Daniel didn't argue. He'd spent his life following orders, but there was something in the air, something that made the hair rise on the back of his neck. Not fear, not shame, something else, something colder. He stepped back as asked, but as he did, he felt every eye in the first rows avoid his, every parent in the front dressed in perfect formality. Not one willing to move or question to them. He was just some old man in the wrong place, some relic who didn't belong among polished shoes and program pamphlets. He found a corner near the side door, stood silently, hands behind his back, eyes on the stage, still proud, still waiting. He didn't notice the men in row 5 watching him, but they noticed everything. The ceremony began with a polished voice over the sound system, welcoming distinguished guests, faculty, and parents. Rows of polished chairs shifted as people sat in unison. Hundreds of eyes focused on the stage. But one man remained standing off to the side near the fire exit, unmoving hands, folded chin, slightly raised. Daniel didn't need a seat. He'd spent 20 years on his feet. He didn't need a program. He knew why he was here. The usher passed by again, this time with another staff member. She whispered, thinking he couldn't hear, still standing there, "I don't think he's even invited." The other replied, "Just have security keep an eye on him." A few heads in the nearby rows turned eyebrows, raised. The man in the faded Marine jacket didn't flinch. He'd stood like this at funerals and sandstorms under artillery. A few sideways glances couldn't shake him. Then one of the students, a young man in cap and gown, walked out from behind the curtain to make a speech. It was the dean's son, polished, practiced, perfect diction. He started thanking the families who made this possible. Then he added, with a performative pause, "Especially the presentable ones who represent the values we teach." Laughter followed, light, polite, but not from everyone. Daniel didn't blink, but in the fifth row, 3 men in dark suits, buzz cuts barely visible beneath civilian caps, exchanged a glance. One of them, taller than the others, leaned slightly forward and muttered that was aimed at him. The others nodded, once silent back. Near the wall, a security guard approached Daniel with a clipboard. "Sir, we've had some concerns. Would you mind stepping outside until we verify your name on the list?" "I'm not causing trouble," Daniel said calmly. "My son asked me to be here. I'm not moving until I see him cross that stage." The guard was polite but firm. "Sir, I need you to come with me." A few audience members began whispering. A woman near the aisle whispered, "They're removing that man." Another one muttered, "Honestly, he's making people uncomfortable." Daniel looked at the guard and exhaled slowly. All right. He followed no protest, no scene, just quiet compliance. But as he reached the edge of the aisle, a single sharp noise interrupted the silence. A chair scraped against the floor. Then another. In the fifth row, 6 men stood at once. No uniforms, no words, just presence, chests, broad eyes, fixed arms at their sides. They didn't look angry. They looked deliberate. People turned, confused. Some murmured. The tallest one stepped into the aisle. He walked toward the guard escorting Daniel, pulled something from his pocket, and held it up without speaking. A Navy SEAL Trident badge. Then another man stepped forward and did the same. 6 badges, 6 men. No one moved. Then the tallest looked at the crowd, gaze sweeping slowly from face to face, and finally said, with the calm authority of someone who'd once cleared combat zones, "That man doesn't leave the room. He led us through hell. He's staying right here." The air changed, not suddenly, but completely, as if everyone in the room simultaneously realized they'd missed something important. The 6 men who had stood in unison remained perfectly still. Their posture wasn't aggressive. It was protective, reverent, the way brothers stand beside their own when the world forgets who they are. The security guard looked from one face to another, then down at the trident pin in his hand. He took half a step back. I didn't know." The tallest SEAL didn't reply. He didn't need to. His presence answered everything. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Who is he?" And then quietly, another man in uniform, this one seated near the stage, older medals across his chest, stood up. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "That man is Master Sergeant Daniel Beck, 3rd Recon Operation Phantom Sun, Fallujah. The only man who walked back out of that street after pulling 5 of us out under fire." Gasps audible. Now real. Someone in the back dropped their phone. Daniel didn't look at the crowd. He hadn't moved since the 6 men stood. He just lowered his head slightly, jaw tight. He wasn't angry. He was just tired of having to prove who he was. Then another voice echoed through the speakers. This time it wasn't planned. It was Tyler, his son, on stage, now stepping out of line, from the graduate's microphone in hand, cap slightly tilted, his voice cracked, but he didn't hesitate. "That's my dad." Silenced, Tyler stepped to the edge of the stage. He never asked for recognition. He never bragged. But every morning for 4 years, he told me to stand tall, keep going, and be someone I'd be proud to look in the eye. Today is supposed to be my graduation, but I'm proud because of him, and if he's not welcome here, then neither am I. He removed his cap, stepped off stage, and walked down the stairs straight toward his father. The crowd parted as he reached Daniel. Tyler stood tall, chested out, and saluted him. The 6 SEALs did the same, one by one. Daniel didn't salute back. He stepped forward, hugged his son, and said, quietly, "You didn't need to do that." Tyler replied, "No, Dad, they needed to see it." The auditorium stood still, suspended in something deeper than shock. The woman who had turned Daniel away stared down at her clipboard. Suddenly very small, parents who had looked past him shifted in their seats. Some lowered their eyes. Others looked up at him with something closer to reverence. A man they had dismissed as not belonging now stood as the one figure no one dared speak over. Tyler led his father slowly back toward the front rows. This time, no one blocked their path. The same usher who had waved him off now stepped aside without a word. Daniel passed her calmly, never breaking his pace. He didn't need an apology. His presence had already demanded one, and gotten it in silence. The 6 SEALs followed. They didn't sit. They stood just behind the front row, arms crossed as if guarding the moment one of them turned to the crowd and said almost to himself, "About time." The dean stepped up to the podium, pale, clutching his speech. He glanced toward the group, then back to the mic. He tried to recover, but his voice betrayed him. We are honored today to have many distinguished guests, including some we should have recognized sooner. A few claps followed, uncertain, then more. Then the room shifted. The applause grew, not just polite anymore. It built row after row, until the room echoed, not with speeches, but with recognition. But Daniel didn't bask in it. He just sat quietly next to his son. He opened the invitation Tyler had written and read it one more time, then folded it back into his pocket. That's what he'd come for. Not applause, just that seat, just that moment after the ceremony. No one rushed out. Students passed by Daniel slowly, some shaking his hand, some just nodding. With quiet respect, a mother placed her hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for raising him right." Later, as the crowd dispersed, the 6 SEALs approached him once more. One of them handed him something small. A coin. Daniel turned it over, a unit challenge coin. The man said, "You were always the standard we never forgot." Daniel didn't speak. He just gripped the coin, nodded once, and looked at his son. And for the first time that day, he smiled. He never asked for a spotlight, never raised his voice. He just showed up on time with honor and a quiet pride no uniform could capture. And when they tried to push him aside, the men who remembered stood up. Not because he demanded it, but because they owed it. Some heroes don't need a microphone. They just need to be seen. So now I ask you, have you ever known someone like Daniel Beck? Someone the world overlooked until the silence around them became impossible to ignore. Tell us in the comments, share their name. Say what they meant to you. Because here on Veterans Voice, we believe the loudest respect is the kind you don't have to ask for. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe. Help us keep telling the stories of those who served, stood tall, and never stopped being an example. No matter who was watching, and next time you see someone standing alone at the back of the room, look again. He might be